Hello my lovelies, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today I am going to be talking through 10 amazing books by authors of colour. So I know that it is not Black History Month anywhere. The American one I think is in February or March and the UK one is in October, but let's be honest, we should be celebrating authors of colour all year round. So this video is going up randomly in November and I make no apologies. So I am going to talk to you today about 10 books by authors of colour that I thought were excellent. There will, you will probably notice, be some missing on here that I talk about a lot, and I just wanted to bring a spotlight to some authors that aren't talked about quite as much on BookTube, though some of them are, but just not by me. But some of them I have never seen mentioned on BookTube before, and yeah, I just wanted to bring to light some other books outside the ones that always get loads of hype. So without any further ado, let's go through the list. So the first book that I'd like to talk to you about is The Night Tiger by Yangsze Choo. This book is set in Malaysia and I think it's the only book I've ever read set in Malaysia, and that was a big tick for me right from the off. It follows two points of view, a young girl and a young boy, and the loose premise is there is a tiger, a supposed tiger, stalking the town where they live and killing people. And it's about, is this actually a tiger or is this a person? Is this magical realism? It sort of delves into Malaysian folklore and those sorts of things. And obviously at the heart of it is this mystery about what's happening to these people who look like they've been attacked by a tiger. This was a really good book. It had loads and loads of really interesting cultural references that I didn't know anything about, and lots of reference to sort of the occupation. I know that's not the right word, but the what is the word I'm looking for? Colonisation. Thank you. Colonisation of Malaysia by obviously British people and white people. So I didn't really know anything about that either. God, I sound really uneducated. But yeah, so I just thought that was really interesting, opened my eyes a lot. I'd definitely like to read more about Malaysia and Malaysian culture going forwards. And yeah, so I recommend this one highly. The next book I am going to tell you about is actually one that does get quite a lot of good recognition, and that is The Nickel Boys by Colson, Whitehead. Now, contrary to popular opinion, I didn't love The Underground Railroad. I thought it was okay, but it didn't really grip me. Whereas The Nickel Boys I really enjoyed. This is about a young boy who is sort of in the wrong place at the wrong time and accused of a crime that he didn't commit. A story which is very common in the States. I think this takes place, is it in the 70s-ish, 60s, 70s? And he gets sent to effectively like this sort of reform school for boys who have committed crimes, and the things that happen there are really horrific, and it's about his experience there and what happens to him and the other boys. And it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. The way that Whitehead uses language is exceptional, and that was true of the Underground Railroad as well, but that story just didn't, it was missing something for me personally. But yeah, The Nickel Boys, just it gets you, it strikes right to the bone, and yeah, I think everyone should absolutely pick it up. It's unfortunately very reflective of our current time as well as the time that it was set. The next book I'd like to talk about is an African classic, which I did read quite recently. I will try and link my wrap-up video to it above, but that is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. So I can't remember when this was written. I think it was the early 1900s. And this is about a man, Okonkwo, in an African tribe, and his relationship with his family and the other people in his tribe, in his village, and what is seen as acceptable. It is about the African folklore and way of life back in the time that it was set, which I think was sort of 1800s, and then what happens when the white man comes and forces Christianity down the necks of the tribes that live there. This was really eye-opening, as a lot of these books are, and yeah, I think it's an important read for anyone who particularly is white British, and we don't learn about this in our school history, shock horror, but we should all be more aware of our history and what our ancestors did to many other cultures and communities across the world. The next book I'm going to recommend, again, is quite a popular one, and that is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a non-fiction book, and it tackles the different caste systems that we've seen through history. So the caste systems that she discusses are the Nazi caste system, the Indian caste system, and the American caste system against African Americans. And she draws really interesting parallels between them that sort of make you go, holy shit. Particularly when she's drawing parallels between the Nazi system and what they did to the Jews, and then what white people are still doing to black people in America. I also didn't know anything about the Indian caste system, where everyone is sort of put into levels, and the people at the bottom level basically are seen as disgusting. They're called the untouchables, and there was a particular moment in the book where it talked about a teacher of a higher caste refusing to even touch the exam papers of the untouchable caste because of their caste. And you just think, wait, what? This is actually happening? It was yeah, horrific, but so educational and so well written. And I listened to this on audio, and I would highly recommend listening to it like that, because yeah, it was expertly done in every way possible. So moving on to a little bit of fantasy now, I'm going to start with The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. So this came out this year in the UK. I think it came out last year in the States. And I really enjoyed this. This is a multi-perspective fantasy story, high fantasy. And broadly, the magic system works around these bone shards. So everybody has a section of bone removed from them as a child, and then that is used to create the magic. But as that magic is used, actually, I'm not going to tell you anymore. No more. But broadly, that's the magic system. And we follow the daughter of the current emperor, and she is trying to work out how she can use this bone shard magic and inherit the throne. We're then following a sort of pirate character who is fantastic, and also we have a third perspective. No, we have more than that. there's another perspective where we don't know who the character is. They're just on an island and we're trying to work out what's going on with them. And I think, and yeah, and there is a sort of governor's daughter character as well. Brilliant setup to a series. I am very much looking forward to the next one. I think it's called the Bone Shard Empire. I'm not sure, but that should be coming up hopefully next year, so I'm really excited to pick that up. And yeah, just an exquisite fantasy by an author of colour. Keeping on the fantasy theme, how could I not mention The Poppy War? So again, this one has had quite a lot of hype, but deservedly so. And this is a military fantasy where you follow a young girl, Rin, who against the odds gets accepted into a very prestigious school where she learns that she actually has some unique powers. So the first half of the book is the sort of fantasy academic vibe, and then the second half is basically the unravelling of the political system within this world and how Rin deals with that. I really loved this book. I thought it was very well done. For me, the first half was a lot faster paced than the second half, but I'm really looking forward to picking up the second one, The Dragon Republic, which I do own and just really need to get to. Next up, I have a book that I haven't heard anybody else talk about, and that is Silence is a Sense by Layla AlAmmar. And this one focuses on the immigrant experience. So you have a girl who has fled her country. Oh, I can't actually remember where she comes from now. Might be Syria, but don't quote me on that. And she comes to England and she has a lot of anxiety about what has happened to her, and it causes her to effectively shut herself into her flat. And she's scared to go out, she's scared to form bonds and relationships with other people, and we sort of see as she grows through the book and about what happens. And there's a lot in this book focusing on Islamophobia and racism and how she copes with that after coming through all this horrificness of travelling to the UK, to somewhere that is safe, and then when she gets here it's not safe for her. And I thought this was fantastic, would highly recommend to anyone who enjoyed The Beekeeper of Aleppo. Yeah, outstanding book. More on the literary side, I would say. Next up, I'm going to mention a book that previously I hadn't heard mentioned much on BookTube until yesterday when I watched Nikki's video over at Red Dot Reads, and she discussed this book also. So also, just on a complete tangent, that video that Nikki put up of non-fiction recommendations, highly recommend. Basically, I added all of those to my TBR. So the book I'm talking about currently, or eventually when I get to it, is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. So this is an autobiographical novel about Maya Angelou's childhood as she grows up in the South, and what she experiences. And she has a rough upbringing. So she moves to live with her grandmother and is, for lack of a better word, abandoned by her mother and father. And it's about that, and it's about her relationship with her brother and her relationship with her grandparents and religion and the South. And it is just excellent. And I listened to this one on audio, and I highly, highly recommend it, because Angelou does narrate it herself, and she has the best voice, this sort of deep Southern American voice. And there are quite a lot of sort of songs and hymns and things in the book, So hearing her sing them the way they're supposed to be sung just added a complete another layer for me. So yeah, highly recommend this one. I think there are 7 in this series as a autobiographical series. So I really do want to pick up the next one because it ends at quite a pivotal point in Maya Angelou's life. So I'm keen to see what happens after that. But I'm not going to tell you what it is because you need to read it. Okay, so the last 2 that I have on my list are, unusually for me, both YA novels. I, as you probably know, don't read a lot of YA, and when I do, I quite often have quite scathing opinions. But these 2 I highly rate. The first one is a contemporary, and that is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this book follows a young girl. She's a teenager. She has a daughter, so she had a teen pregnancy. She has a young daughter, and it's just about her trying to make it through school, deal with being a parent, a single parent, and dealing with the father of that child who she's no longer with, and trying to follow her dreams and be a good mother and be a teenager all at the same time. And the way it's written is fantastic. I listened to this one on audio as well, which is also narrated by the author. And yeah, I just thought it was brilliant. I wasn't actually expecting that much from it. It sounded a bit meh, but I thought it was fantastic. I was completely invested all the way through in the main character's well-being, and yeah, highly recommend. And I really, really need to pick up some of her other work. I have Clap When You Land on my Kindle, and she did another one, Poet X, which I think won the National Book Prize, maybe. But yeah, I really would like to get to both of those because they sound really good, and if they're anything like With the Fire on High, then I will be very pleasantly indulged. And the last on my list, but certainly not the least, is a YA dystopian novel, and that is The Marrow Thieves by Cherie Dimaline. And Cherie Dimaline is a Native American author, and this book, as I said, is a dystopian novel where Native Americans are hunted for their bone marrow, and you follow a young boy, a teenage boy, who is living in this world and is basically trying to survive and keep away from the white people who are trying to harvest his bone marrow. This was really quite poignant. It read quite literary for a YA novel. I don't really want to tell you too much about it because you just need to get engulfed in the world, but there's great themes here of friendship, of found family, of determination. Obviously it touches on the themes of racism, discrimination, and it was just expertly done. And I did see on, I think it was on Native Book Lady's channel, I'll link her below, that there is a sequel to this coming out soon. So I absolutely will be picking that one up because I enjoyed the first one so much. So that, my loves, is my list of 10 amazing books by amazing PSC authors. If you've read any of them, let me know. And also if there's any standout books that you want to recommend to me to pick up so that I can do another list like this in 6 months' time, then that would be great. And yeah, I think that is it. Obviously, if you liked this content, I would love it if you would consider liking and subscribing. And I will see you all for another one soon. Saturday? I can't remember what days this is going up, but on my next upload date, I will see you again. Okay, bye.